So now I wanted to actually bring up, speaking of scenes, that's a good segue into the next portion. Um, I wanted to ask you, so when it comes to BDSM, and since you do leather work, right? What is it that like from a leather worker's perspective, what is it that you look into for a lot of the stuff that you use for your scenes? Like what what out of learning leather taught you what to look for as far as implementations and tools?
Well, I mean, it really all depends on what you're going for in the scene. Like, what sort of thing are you going for? I knew that for me, I wanted to have lots of different restraint options because I like restraining my partners,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my partners like being restrained in some various ways. And so I would always look for devices that would that cause restraint of some sort, or motion restrictive restrictions of some point. And when I start making a lot of leather for myself, it's with that in mind. It's how can I restrain, how does this how can I use this to restrain someone,
Mm-hmm.
or how can this be used in a predicament, because I do like predicament bondage a lot.
Yeah.
I like yeah, motion restriction and stuff like that. I did a scene very recently with one of my partners that I was having them in a set of cuffs. So their wrists were restrained, and then I restrained their wrists above their head, hanging from my ceiling, or
Mm-hmm.
hanging from a hook I have dangling from my ceiling, and so they couldn't move away from that. And then I put a spreader bar between their legs.
That's always the
so
best
they
one.
couldn't. So they couldn't. So
Yeah.
they're hanging like this while their legs are spread and not bare. Just being able to keep themselves on the ground.
If Mr. Washington was in here, yeah, I bet you he would have probably said, "Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite ones." I've watched some of his videos, and he had some of his ABDL girls do that. It was really cool. Yeah, no. Barely, like, getting back to the advertisement. Barely crafting is great. They, for those of you that are in the community and you guys love to have like bins for your different type of toys and stuff like that, referring to your adult toys, uh, you might want to listen here because this is actually kind of important. Those of you that have your adult toys and would like to keep them in something that's a little more fashionable than having them out on the floor or something,
Or in a Rubbermaid bin.
or yeah, or in a Rubbermaid bin, you might want to have it somewhere else that's actually kind of cool. So the best place to actually like put that stuff to is like a really cool like wooden chest. So Barely Crafting actually makes these wooden chests, and
And they can double as furniture.
yeah, they can.
Some of them can. Some of them are built to be both furniture and storage, and others you can just use as storage because you can use as furniture because they're just so sturdy.
Yeah, and I actually am currently having something commissioned by Barely. I'm
Awesome.
having a pacifier chest made. What happened was is that my former top slash dom Rain, uh, she had a pacifier box that her husband gave her. Husband's a bit of a jerk, and none of us want to talk to him anymore. Story for a different day. Actually, a story that you all have probably already seen and heard. You guys saw that. By the way, but the pacifier box that Rain had is a cigar box. So we want to get Rain, even though she's not around anymore, something that's way more fitting. So I had a talk with Barely, and Barely is going to go over and have the entire box redone.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
And nobody better to do it. Is so talented.
yeah. I had this
So talented.
conversation with them. Uh, they also informed me that they could make a bigger box for like toys and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's
So there is a chance that I might have 3 boxes made.
nice.
So I can get rid of this plastic bin with all the vehicles and stuff in it, and actually get a chest that will have like that will be able to fit my figures in there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Very, very good stuff. So you got a question up here. What is a
It's a bullwhip. Yeah.
So a bullwhip is a single tail whip used for both whipping bulls and in the past people under chattel slavery. And not just like whips go back till to the beginning of time. But the modern single tail whip dates back to the time of American slavery, and it causes a distinct crack because it flies at a supersonic speed.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why it makes the crack, because you're breaking the sound barrier, and whenever you break the sound barrier, it cracks. And it is a very triggering sound to a lot of people such as yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And the one thing I want to actually put out there is, because there was a question that was asked a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to actually have you to answer that. But some people always ask, what's the difference between a flogger and a whip? Isn't a flogger the same thing as a whip?
Yeah, no, they are not the same things at all. So, I mean, they can be used similarly.
Yeah.
Like, they're both impact play toys, and you can use them to hit people. But a flogger is generally something with a handle that has multiple strips, or what we call falls, coming off of them. And those falls can be a variety of different things. People make them out of rope. People make them out of leather. People make them out of... I've seen one made out of Ethernet cords before.
I just saw that one.
Yeah, it's a meme that's been going around the internet for years and years. But when you're nerdy and also kinky, usually that.
Yes, just about the same sound as a cane.
Well, nah, I mean, that crack, the subsonic crack, really has a very distinct sound, and that's really what causes the sensory issues, because it's not only the sound of it, but because it's breaking the sound barrier, it's sending waves out. It's literally sending shock waves out.
Because of, yeah.
Whereas a cane, you're not going to Cat o' Nine Tails is definitely a flogger.
Yeah, that's a flogger.
That is definitely a flogging type implement. It's much more sadistic than the floggers we have these days.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well,
those are the ones with the edges? They have like ends.
Because the Cats o' Nine Tails used to be braided strips of leather with, the Romans would literally braid in bits of bone, broken glass, broken metal, iron nails, and shit like that when they would hit people, and it would literally rip the skin off of your back. It is a form of torture, obviously.
But floggers don't have that. So
no, floggers don't have that. Floggers are for play. Floggers are for pleasure. Floggers are not to cause harm. Floggers, yes, some floggers might hurt you, but they're not going to harm you.
So before I forget, there were 2 other questions that I wanted to have you answer on the show.
I'd love to answer them.
So the first question I wanted to ask you is that when you when you're working on leather, right, and you're making like the floggers and different stuff like the dragon's tongues and stuff like that, is the type of impact thought of ahead of time, or is it thought of before that time?
So when I'm making any of my toys, I usually have a specific purpose in mind for it, or I have an idea that it's going to do a certain thing or have a certain feel to it. So yes, but sometimes I get surprised and it'll have a completely different feel.
See, that's what I was wondering. I didn't know whether it was a surprise at the end, or was it like you have a particular thing in mind and then sometimes it might deviate, or sometimes it always ends, or it always ends up the way that you wanted it. So that's
Nothing. I mean, certainly not everything ends up the way I want it. Yeah, sometimes I get lucky and things end up the way I want it. But as a craftsman and as a maker, especially an artisan maker, it's all an experiment until you have your process down. Whatever new thing I'm making, it's always going to be an experiment. I mean, yeah, sometimes it'll turn out exactly like I thought because I know my materials, because I've got the experience. Back in the beginning, oh no, everything was just an experiment. Everything was just an experiment and whatever, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I was always curious about, because that was one of my biggest questions. Was like I never knew whether like it was always planned, or does it deviate? How does that work?
I mean, after a while, you certainly learn the way leather behaves. If you have a thin piece of leather, no matter if it's soft or stiff, if it's going fast enough, it's liable to be stingy.
Mm-hmm.
The wider your strip of something is, the less likely it is going to be super stingy. The more it'll be maybe a little bit more of a thud or something like that. But once you get to know the material and once you start dealing with the different types of leather, you have an idea of what it's going to be. You know, like if I were to make veg tan is specifically tends to be stiffer and harder as a leather, and so I tend to make paddles and slappers out of it because I know, first of all, it's rigid enough to stay in the shape that I cut it, and not just flop. Like, everything will obviously stay in the shape, but whether it's got the rigidity to be used in that shape. Like, when I make all my floggers, it's all out of soft leather because I want them to be soft. I want them to fall and cascade and be able to be whipped around versus a thicker,
like a dragon
heavier
stone
tail. Yeah, you don't want it to flop around. You want it to maintain its rigidity or its stiffness.
Yeah, its stiffness.
Specifically because you're looking for a specific type of pain, mainly a sting.
Yes.
Or if it's a wide enough band of leather, a oomph or a thud.
Because that really does answer a question, because like I said before, I was always wondering like how that goes about it. Now, as someone who has done impact play, and like I said before, I keep bringing this up. I wanted to ask, like, some people are wondering, like, how is it that you go for the thuddy hits versus like the stingy ones?
Well, thuddier hits are easier to take for most people, and so it's a great way to warm. It's a great way to start off your scene, to warm up with thuddier options, and to build up, as you said, kind of get your motor going.
Yes.
Like, you want to build up, you want to start out light and get harder, and so thuddier things are a good way to start out before going stingy.
Because like for myself, like I know that whenever I do impact play, like my body becomes like heavily like sensitive, and
yeah,
I enjoy that sensation. Like, but it does it faster than I think. I kind of feel like my back does it a little bit faster than most, because I know when it comes to me queso could probably make me melt in like 5 minutes because I know that after a couple of hits and then like soft caresses, it makes everything like super sensitive. It's great.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
Oh, thank you, Rose, and welcome back. Actually, it has been a long time. Yeah, no, that's actually pretty knowledgeable. Like the thing is that I feel like a lot of people get into impact play and they don't really realize like all the intricacies and things that go into it. And you're shaking your head. I can tell that that's true.
Well, yeah, and also a lot of people don't really. There are not enough resources available to most people that do not want to spend hours and hours online researching things. And because of that, impact play can be very dangerous for people that are inexperienced, both receiving and topping, both giving and receiving. And it's really, really imperative that you start off easy. Do not try to go hard when you're starting out. It is that you're just going to have a bad time. Even if you're topping or bottoming, you're going to have a bad time, or your partner is going to have a bad time.
Yes. And that's one of the things that always gets to me is that like a lot of people don't realize that. And then like you have people that go and buy like $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $10,000 worth of equipment and they don't know how to use it. And then like I could be standing there on the dungeon floor and watching this sometimes, and I see these people like take out the stingy objects and start using them, and I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, go and take a class for impact play before you do this.
To be fair, there's not necessarily a ton of great resources for people to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of the community that we're both involved in and the studio we both hang out at are really working to try and fix that, at least in the Pittsburgh scene.
Yes.
Since the vacuum of the other scene that imploded over the pancetta.
Yeah.
But it's it's still hard if you don't know what you're doing, to just pick something up and intuitively know what you're doing, to know what to do. And with proper education, anybody can do it. But don't think you just can pick up buy a toy and know how to use it.
And that's the thing. But you'd be surprised. Almost all of them, like...
Yes,
actually, you're not even surprised, because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. So in the before times, I used to sell at Russ's event at the body shop, which was the kinky dress party.
Yeah.
And most of my customers that would stop at the table would be completely shit-faced drunk and literally just start picking stuff off of my table and start hitting themselves with it, being drunk off their asses, having no clue what the fuck to do with it. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this is insane.
But they used to do that so much. Like that reminds me of like at Fat 101 they used to do that. And
the bondage ball.
Yeah, and the bondage ball. They would like you have some girl who is like college girl fucking plastered, going, oh, hit me with it, I can take it. I'm like, yeah, because you're too drunk to realize what the fuck you're doing.
You're too drunk to consent for me to hit you. Or you're
exactly.
too drunk to consent. So
and it's absolutely so stupid. And every time absolutely I see that, it irritates me.
Yeah, no.
Like, if you cannot take your alcohol, if you're not a strong person with a constitution to take alcohol, do not bring alcohol to an event. Well, because that's real stupid.
Well, that's why we have the sober socials at VF Studios, because we don't want people being stupid and being drunk and not being able to engage with BDSM safely. And that's part of a lot of the issue, or a lot of the discord that I've seen recently about how BDSM is very harmful. It can be harmful if you don't know what the hell you're doing. Like, it can be great if you know what you're doing, but you cannot just start out and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and, you got to do research, you got to read. And fortunately, these days, there's so many great resources on the internet. In-person resources are a little lacking, but there's so many great resources on the internet. And it's easier than ever to actually educate yourself these days. And, knowledge is a dangerous thing. But, I mean, so is lack of knowledge. I would argue that that's more dangerous.
Yeah.
But...
which is that's what you get hit with a lot more, is the whole lack of knowledge, because people are not prepared for it.
I recently saw a tweet that was denigrating BDSM because they're like, wait a minute, why isn't no and don't good enough? Why do you have to have a safe word?
Because... Okay, so can I answer that one?
Please do. Because
that's
actually
a dipshit fucking question. Because have any person... Okay, so let's just start off with this. Any person that has ever watched porn will know that sometimes words are used not as they are usually intended. Like don't could be referring to is usually in some cases a reverse to what it actually means. This is stated in, like, if a lot of people that watch porn know this. When you are in play, sometimes your mind says something that it's not actually wanting to portray. So you use safe words so that what you're portraying is accurately picked up. So, for instance, red, yellow, green explains, like, how you are mentally, in which your brain is actually being able to portray it normally. So, green meaning we're still good to go. Yellow meaning, oh my God, could you slow down a bit? Or red meaning just straight out stop.
Yeah.
That's why we do this. Because there are chicks that get fucked all the time, and, like, during sex, they'll say, no, or, like, moan no or don't, and they're not actually referring to that. It's just, like, maybe something that's in part of the play. So this is why we come up with safe words in order to keep that from happening. And I just don't understand why someone would be like, well, why do you need safe words? Well, dipshit, maybe if you would actually, like, fucking study on something, you would actually know about the... Wow, I really do sound really mean, and I apologize.
I don't think, it's easy to get frustrated with the lack of education and people just spouting off without even understanding even the most basic things.
No, because that
it's very frustrating.
It is, because
very frustrating.
Because when you deal with the kink community, a lot of times
exactly that up there,
It says because you could be unwell or it's overwhelming for you, so it's good to have a word that says no, please, red card. This is too much. Yes, that's perfect.
Red card. Is that a football term?
Yeah, it's a sports term.
Okay.
But red card, like you're saying, hey, listen.
Yeah, I mean,
like
the word red is automatically a stop word.
Yeah, the only other time that I ever seen that fail, and that was because there was no dungeon master for the dungeon, and I think you remember that was the last bondage ball. There was no dungeon master, and there was a situation
that was the biggest problem with those events, was there was no dungeon master, and honestly, that's one of the biggest problems with the dungeon space currently available to most of us here in this area, is they do not have a DM.
They just now started actually.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, because I haven't. Been there.
No, they have one now.
That's good, because the last time I was there, this random person, I was walking by gathering up my gear because I had done a scene earlier. I had done an impact scene earlier, and I had left my gear in the corner to go do aftercare with the person I had just done the impact scene with.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I got done with aftercare, I went back to go collect my toys. This random person just grabbed my nipple because it's pierced. And so for whatever reason, some people, white women, I'm talking to you, white women, because only white women have ever done this to me. That and, well, no, a few gay men have also done this, not just white women, but the bulk of it has been white women have literally, just because I've got pierced nipples as a male presenting individual, will literally just grab them
and they legitimately, like, there was a situation like a couple of weeks ago where there had to be someone to step in to actually say, okay, calm this shit down. There was a situation like that. But I actually haven't been back since, and that's actually not, that doesn't really pertain to why I haven't been back. I just haven't been back. But that happened to me the last time I was there, and I do remember that. I do. No, they actually started having a dungeon master. Matter of fact, the dungeon master is sometimes someone you actually know.
As a queso.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Queso. Great. I'm glad they absolutely understand consent.
Yeah.
And I know they'll do a great job doing the DMs there. So that's great.
Yeah, because they actually needed a DM, because what was going on too is people just walking up and just using equipment right after someone was like, let's say, like, I got off of the cross and I was getting aftercare, instead of just like going up and say, hey, can we use that real fast? Instead of doing that, they would just take it over and not say anything. Be like, oh, you were gone too long. That's not how you do that. Like, guys, like, no, don't do that.
Also, so it is after you're done with the scene, it is the people responsible that were doing that scene to clean the thing first, and sometimes you need to go get the cleaning supplies because they're not right next to you as sometimes they should be, or sometimes they ran out of the cleaning supplies and you need to go get more.
And that is always a situation, and that's the thing that, like, people don't like. So when I first joined the community, right, and I want this to be known, I was taught, like, you always clean, and this is how they explained it. You always remove your scent from whatever it was that you were on. So you always clean that. And they told you the proper way that you wipe down and everything. Then they aftercare is very important. So the other thing that they used to tell us is like, always wait, ask to see if they're done. Do not just assume and just jump onto the thing, like, especially if you don't know if it was cleaned or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, but a lot of these new people don't get those same rules, and like I had stated this before, a particular group that used to be really big in the community. Before they basically collided with, like, basically crashed down the earth with their egos and everything else. The thing that got me about that is that they used to teach that, and now these people that come into the community and they don't know any of that, it's kind of annoying, because, like, they should be more incisive and ready to know that, like intuitive, I should say, not incisive, but intuitive, to know that is the protocol that you do. But you need people to teach that, and I kind of wish that I definitely feel that, like, we do need another FET 101 with classes that actually do teach this stuff.
Well, that's education is super important, and once again, we can link that back to all the problems in our country is education.
Yeah.
Is the lack of education.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, that's what what we're trying to do with Violent Fringe Studios is we're trying to foster, a environment of safety and education, because we don't want people getting hurt. Because anybody that gets hurt while doing this, that's how it develops such a shitty reputation. And that doesn't go with just BDSM. That goes for things like ABDL. That goes for things like pet play. goes, all the other sort of like kinks that sort of don't fall under BDSM, but are still kinky and still a fetish and a kink.
ABDL also runs into a couple of issues, but since you brought that up, and I'll point out some of the issues in ABDL kink in particular that really pisses me off is etiquette. And I've been talking about this for over 10 years. Etiquette is important. People, listen to what I have to say on this.
Yeah, etiquette.
Etiquette and decorum are important.
Yes.
Proper way to walk into an ABDL store, like a brick and mortar store for ABDLs. Walk in, look at your stuff, be friendly, talk to the people, buy what you want, get the fuck out.
That's a great little bit of aftercare right there. Doing some coloring, soothing music, small bit of small little nap. That's a great.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lovely bit of aftercare. Right
Yeah.
there.
So here's what I was about to say.
Continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No. That's fine. That's fine. I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't see that. What we have in the community sometimes, and I know Rose is going to get real pissed when she hears this, is you have people that will go into a brick and mortar store for ABDLs, coated in shit, and literally be like, hey, can someone here change me? Why would you think that that's an appropriate thing to do?
That is disgusting.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing until I heard about that happening at happening in Indiana. That happened at a brick and mortar store that's not there anymore. But you had people that would drive up and think that was appropriate, and that's fucking stupid. And then when you tell them, like, that's not appropriate, get the fuck out of the store, they're like, I don't understand why they're being mean to me. Why the fuck do you think that that's appropriate? Like, and
just because they have an ABDL store does not mean they consented to clean your shit.
Exactly. But this is...
that is...
Yeah, see, I told you, I knew Rose is going to jump in on this. Rose is like, why would you do that?
That is...
Yeah, no, but this is something that does happen. And you know what's the funniest part? Those are the dudes that you'll actually see online who have no decorum or understanding of how the community is, but they'll be the first ones to start yelling about how they need a mommy and shit, right? And it's stupid. And I always get so mad looking at that.
Old white man?
Huh? Oh yeah.
Fucking.
Oh yeah. It's like you're not gonna get it. Like, let me tell you something.
Goddamn white.
I can count on one hand how many like of color ABDLs I've run into that do that shit. I'm
guessing none.
Oh no, I've run into a few.
Really?
That is disappointing.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
but there's assholes in every group.
Yeah, but then you have like, and these guys are like in their like 50s and 60s, and they think that this is okay. You have
okay, so that's kind of an interesting generational thing. I noticed that a lot of my age and younger people have a much better grasp of consent than people older than me. And I'm an elder millennial. Like, I'm like literally the oldest millennial. There's something about Gen Xers and Boomers that are they just don't get the consent idea. It wasn't something they grew up with, and they weren't taught it, and it's really...
So there was a guy that was talking to me at one of the conventions. I believe it was at if I'm not mistaken, it was like Indie Dream World. There was a conversation about about just what you were just saying, about the difference in the community. And he was telling me about how in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, when you had the ABDL community and they were with the LGBT community, and like it was like majority, we're not talking about the whole LGBT community, we're talking just gay men. Like, there was a whole thing with the whole gay men thing where these dudes would literally go up and be like, you're mine now, and then like, if this is fucking prison, and then like that person's with them forever, and I'm like, that's not wrong.
Yeah, that's not consensual. That's once again, I find younger millennials and Gen Z has such a much better idea on consent and what's okay and what's not okay, and you have to ask for people. And what is that?
The people I hate and tell you is this, and are outright fakes are the ones that say, "Oh, I'm ABDL, but I have a pic of a real child." That's a problem.
Yeah, that's just no bueno.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised at, like, but these are fucking.
That's a
weird
block.
accounts. Yeah,
that's a block.
Yeah,
right
and
there.
those guys are always the ones that end up getting blocked because, like, I'll find some of those accounts are following like the podcast, and I always end up blocking them because sometimes they'll
not
take
appropriate.
it. No,
it's not appropriate.
No, but they don't. And then when you explain it to them, they literally don't understand. Like I actually had a conversation with a dude who was reposting this one dude, I forget his name, it was like Tiger or something like that. He had gotten in trouble years ago for basically inviting young boys to his house to model his underwear, and I put that in quotes. Yeah, but he got in trouble for that, right?
Can't imagine.
Here's the weird part about that shit. And I mean, when I say weird part, I mean weird part to this.
I'm bracing myself.
The straight sheer fact that this dude opened his own diaper company was something else, but then he started advertising it with underage boys, and the whole community had a fucking fit. And
rightly so.
Yeah, and they went after his ass, right? And they straight up they tarred and feathered this asshole. And the funny thing is that at the end of that, like, because our community has never stood for something like that, and we always end up reporting and like throwing these people out. The weird part is that there was a couple of ABs that are like I did a speech at TeddyCon once. Guy comes up and says, "Tiger did nothing wrong." And I looked at him and I was like, okay, so and I looked at this dude and I says, "Want to know how I can tell that you're a pedo?" I says, and he's just like, "I'm not. I would never stand for that. But Tiger didn't do anything wrong." Tiger did do something wrong. I was like, he never did what he claimed that he was going to do, and he's very much actually doing that. And when I says he's doing exactly what he is accused of.
I don't care if they're not naked. I do not care that.
It doesn't matter.
That is inappropriate.
Yeah, it is.
This is a community for adults, people over the age of 18. It's for consenting people only. You cannot have children model your product. That's disgusting.
He was an idiot. Because when he did it, he claimed that he was doing it so that he could advertise youth diapers. And I was like, but you're not selling them in youth sizes. I was like, so what are you... No, that's bullshit.
Yeah, those people give everyone a bad rap that engages in any sort of
kink play at all. And this is why I want to say, like, this is why that motherfucker is out of the community, and why the fuck that anybody that usually talks about it, like, not as, like, when I say referring to, like, talks about him, if they talk about him in a good light, yeah, they usually end up thrown out with his stupid ass. You will never hear me say anything good about Tiger. I will never say anything about that.
I don't know this person, and I don't really know enough about the ABDL scene.
Well, that's the funny thing.
Know about it, but that's terrible.
That's the funny thing. A lot of people didn't know about the ABDL part, but what I discovered was that they knew about the underwear thing. So because that was actually in a newspaper. Yeah. He was a piece of shit, and we so got rid of that dumbass. Yeah. But anyway, getting off of that, how the fuck did we get to that topic?
I don't know.
Because of the comment. Okay, yeah. Anyway, getting back to the topic I was saying before it's just. Like, yeah, no, it's decorum and etiquette, and people don't seem to understand that decorum and etiquette is actually necessary. Like I said, you don't show up coated in shit going to a fucking brick and mortar store. That doesn't make sense. Like it's
You don't ask people selling you the stuff to clean up. They're not providing services. They're selling you products.
Yes. Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay a mommy to clean your ass up.
Yeah, and most of those dudes
Go pay a sex worker.
and a lot of them are like, I don't want to do that. I want an actual relationship. I don't think that you're able to handle. That's just the way that they are, and it's
okay. You want a real relationship, but this is not how you go about getting a real relationship.
They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know because they've never actually put in the effort or know how or trying to know how to actually understand that.
Yeah. No, that's just.
It's stupid. It's stupid. But you want to know what? Like I said before, every community has its black sheep.
Yeah, every community does.
It says I was digging around in it. It says I can find a VHS player.
Hey, I love a videotape.
Yeah, do you know that I have like a whole bunch of animes and stuff like
I've got to go return some videotapes.
I love it. That is a good movie too. Like that is a real good movie.
It's a movie. It's a movie. It's got its issues and
What do you mean? He is acting exactly how I think he acts in real life.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably so. I mean, yeah.
Like, oh gosh. Okay, but thank you for joining us for the podcast. I really appreciate it. It was awesome having you here.
I'm so happy to do it. It was so much fun.
We got to get you on another episode.
I'm always down to come hang out and talk and just bullshit about whatever.
Yeah, because this was actually really good. It says found some Barney and Power Ranger VHS tapes. Ooh,
I heard recently that the White Ranger just died.
Yeah, he did.
So sorry.
That was tragic.
Very sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
so sorry.
Yeah, he was my hero, and I was actually going to post up on my regular Facebook, not my kink one, but I was going to post up on Facebook a picture of me when I was a kid, dressed up as the White Ranger, because he was also the Green Ranger. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be Tommy so badly. I wanted to be Tommy Oliver because I thought like he was so cool. Yeah. Sadly, he committed suicide. Last weekend, last Sunday, is a real sad story. Yeah, it's fucking horrible.
That was terrible. We hate to hear it.
Yeah, there's a lot of videos you can see on. You can see a lot of videos on it on YouTube. This is why I tell people that you like, even though Twitter is basically a shithole at this point. You should stay on there because sometimes they do.
Oh, there's so many good gems on Twitter.
Yeah.
Also, I'm so here for reposting communist memes. You feed me all the anarchist communist memes. I'm just gonna mainline it. I'm just gonna.
I actually at one
I'm
point
I'm gonna stick it on a mirror, cut it up, and snort it through a fucking straw.
I actually at one point was actually going to make a Twitter account that was of Superman Red Sun.
Nice.
And just like constantly repost like a whole bunch of communist memes because it was hilarious. I thought it would be funny.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody ever watched Red Sun. Red Sun is a good movie. Like, it's a real good movie with Russian Batman. That was unexpected. Russian Batman. That was actually he was hardcore. Like, really freaking hardcore. It was great. But anyway, we gotta run because it's getting late.
What time is it getting to be?
It is almost 6:30.
Oh my! Well, we've been just chatting up a storm, haven't we?
Yeah. There's
even with our technical
not head of Red Sun. Hey, no. What you call it? Superman Red Sun is really cool because it's referring, like, it takes place in Russia during the Cold War, and it's a really awesome story. If you get the chance, there is on YouTube, there is a video. There's there's a channel that did an audio comic read of like a well acted version of the comic book version of Red Sun. That's how I originally saw it. Holy shit, that thing is amazing.
I am actually not familiar with Red Sun, but I will certainly go look it out.
Yeah, it's an Elseworld story.
Okay.
Not all the Elseworld animateds are good, but the Elseworld comics are amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's Batman Gotham Under Gaslight. That one is taking place during the Jack the Ripper killings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And then they have an alternate Earth to that, which is Batman what is it? The madness came to Gotham or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, and that one is a Lovecraftian story.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, breaks.
The Doom that came to Gotham.
The Doom. Okay.
Yeah, the Doom that came to Gotham. That's the name of it, and it's really good. I have to leave myself.
Yeah, brakes suck.
Ooh.
Yeah, fortunately, it's just my rear brakes, so hopefully it'll be under $1,000.
It will be. No.
Well, yeah, no. So yeah, but Subarus always cost so much more money than they're like they're great in the wintertime, but I hate the maintenance on my Subaru. Like they're so like I would not want to be driving anything else in a Pittsburgh winter, but oh my god, there's so much maintenance, so much money on maintenance.
Well, the last 2 winters weren't too bad.
No.
And but the winters before that were fucking terrible.
I mean, so I just happen to live on the top of a steep hill, like so many of us do, and so if it's even a little bit icy or even a little bit snowy, and I haven't had a salt truck or the plow truck, I can't get up. I can't get to my house. I can't get back home.
Yeah, my favorite part is when the plows don't know when to fucking plow. And it's like, guys, can we like plow these streets, please? And not leave them like this for like 6 days?
Well, okay, so first of all, that's just racism because of where you live. No, seriously, because my partner lives on the other side of the river. It gets plowed. This side of the river, nah.
Yeah, and one of the biggest, even when I
like unless you're down by the arena, that's where it gets plowed. Up here, nah. That's because there's fucking a whole shitload of fucking bullshit racist policies in this city.
Well,
regardless,
the thing that used to piss me off is when they didn't do it on the south. Like when I was living on the south side.
I don't want to try Canadian winter. That's why I live here. I know I don't want to try Canadian winter.
What was it? What was it, Lewis?
I grew up in Massachusetts. That was close enough.
Oh Jesus!
We've had one winter since I moved to Pittsburgh that was anywhere near as bad as a normal New England winter.
Didn't we have
and Canadian winters are even worse.
Wasn't that the one where we got about almost I think it was like 30 inches?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2010 when it was that snowpocalypse.
Snowpocalypse. I remember that.
No, I'd rather not try that fucking cold. Fuck that shit.
Yo,
I don't want to try that cold.
I remember Snowpocalypse because I was still in college, and it was like late 2009, early 2010, and I was out there. It was me and my one of my old friends. I had goggles, like aviator goggles on. And we were walking through the snow to get a pizza, and we looked like fucking fools.
I mean, it's the most snow I've seen in Pittsburgh ever. I've lived here for 20 years now. I grew up in Massachusetts, and I played hockey all over New England and lower parts of Canada. So I know shitty winters, and that's why I'm here. I don't want to have... I don't need that shit in my life.
Yeah.
I don't need that shit in my life.
Yeah, after 2012 and 2013 in New York City, 2011 and 2012 in New York City, where we got 28 inches of snow the first time. It was either 28 it was 32 inches the first time. 36 the following year. And I was like, What the why?
I think we ended up with something like 50 inches that year.
Yeah.
It was, and we got 30 of it at once. But yeah, we got like 30 to 36 at once, and then we proceeded to get another 20 inches that year, and that was the most I've ever seen in Pittsburgh. You know, hooray, climate change.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us, everybody. We will definitely be back in the next stream. I'll catch you guys later.
Ciao, thanks for having me.
Bye.